niece who's a supervisor at the 911 dispatch for Garden County, Kansas. There's a herd of buffalo that a farmer has raised. And the farmer got killed. I'm looking at this guy going, and they've been trying to, have you gotten loose? They've been trying to round it up, and police officers and stuff.
Waylon, and I'm a naturalist here at the center. And I think I'm one of two people that have been here since it opened. So that was 20 years ago in 2002. So I have to ask, how many of you have been here before? Everybody? It's okay if you haven't. Okay. About half and half. So I'm just trying to get an idea of what you know about our center and what you don't know. You know that UMKC, of course, was one of the original partners. I believe this land was a part of UMKC.
Yep.
And then
At
I'm
one
not sure
point.
what the deal that was worked out between the Missouri Department of Conservation, but it's all Missouri, right? And and also a three-way deal with the Kaufman Foundation.
Yep.
I believe that we have a $1 eternity lease on this land or something like that. So this was all the vision of Anita Gorman, who was past Kansas City Parks Commissioner and Missouri Department of Conservation Commissioner. And she was the only person to serve 2 consecutive terms. The commissioners are appointed by the governor. So being from Kansas City, her vision was we're not getting enough urban folks into nature. People that live in the city, and those are mostly the people that support conservation, especially in this area. So her vision was to, instead of getting people to travel 25 miles to Burr Oak Woods, anybody been to Burr Oak Woods in Blue Springs? That's our other nature center here in Kansas City. Why not bring nature to the city? So that was the idea that we were going to create an urban conservation campus. We've changed the name since then. But the idea was that this would be a place that people could get information on conservation, buy their licenses, attend programs, and most importantly, provide a place for school groups or for teachers and schools in this neighborhood, in this area, to bring their classroom to learn about conservation. So I think at one time this was it was a vehicle drop-off, like parking lot for abandoned police cars. It was a trolley at one time, a trolley depot.
Yep.
It was a neighborhood at one time. So it's been a lot of different things, and for 20 years it's been the Anita B. Gorman Discovery Center. So I'm going to show you around the inside a little bit, and then Cindy and Alex, our 2 native landscape specialists, will give you guys a walk, a tour outside. So luckily it's not 103. Actually, it's pretty nice.
Yep.
And with a little rain, it might have freshened everything up a little bit, because it was looking like really burnt. And of course, our landscape is well known to be not 100%, but almost 100% Missouri native plants that you would find naturally grown in Missouri. So, who's attended a program here before? Or you just been here and walked around a little bit? I'm trying to find out what you've already seen, maybe what you haven't. Well, let's just start right here. We'll start the gift shop. How's that?
That's usually where they bring you.
I had one of them.
I had a conference here last night, not related to that.
It's not much of a gift shop, but it's a good place to kind of show off some of the features. So the building was designed by BNIM, Bob Berkebile, and they're kind of well known for green, environmentally sound buildings. So his vision was we had as many green design features in this building. For example, the wood that was used to make this table was salvaged from a warehouse in downtown Kansas City. The wood in the ceiling, even the masonry and the bricks were made from eco-friendly materials. The carpet made from recycled soda bottles, the laminate on the top. So it has a lot of very interesting green features. This furniture here was all made from that same wood. I'll show you a closer up piece of the wood. And then he used a lot of salvaged architectural pieces. You'll see them on the outside of the building. It worked into the brickwork from some historic buildings. So there's a lot of history in the building, a lot of green. And the building was named after Lewis and Clark, the Corps of Discovery. Remember 20 years ago, it was the 200-year anniversary of Lewis and Clark, so it's all kind of going on at the same time. Missouri Department of Conservation, we were making a big deal out of the anniversary because it all started here, right? It started at St. Charles. They spent the first 6 weeks of the expedition going through Missouri. This is a replica, or the casting, the bronze casting from this is down at Quality Hill, at Case Park, overlooking the Missouri River, the actual statue was. So Corps of Discovery, Discovery Center, that's how we got the name. We had a pretty strong Lewis and Clark theme going on here for like the first 10 years, but we kind of shifted a little bit away from that. But we still have some of the features and leftovers from that theme. I'll show you the mural out here. This is pretty cool. Follow me this way.
We have the paper birds. Yeah, I like the paper birds.
This is kind of,
This is recycled wood, it still has nail holes.
this is kind of disruptive.
No.
Yes, it is.
So this mural, this painting, is a representation of what Kansas City might have looked like 220 years ago when Lewis and Clark came through. The artists took the actual, they spent 3 days here. They were camped at the Caw in the Missouri River, which would have been right here. Anybody in the Caw Point? So this would be the downtown airport, would be right here. Here's the, you gotta kind of step up and look at this. This is what today looks like. So you're at Quality Hill looking northwest. So this would be Parkville, back up here. Here's the Kansas River coming from behind there. Oh no, Parkville will be over here.
Yeah.
And here's the Missouri River, and this is where they meet right here. And this is downtown Kansas City. So the Missouri River looked much different back then. It was much more shallow, much wider, and not as fast. So in some places it was 2 to 3 miles wide. And it was choked full of sandbars and log jams. These are called sawyers. So the river was extremely difficult to navigate. Of course, today the river's been altered, so it's no longer meanders. So it's just like a straight, almost straight, make way for barge traffic. So it's been widened. Actually, it's been deepened, not widened. It's been made less wide and deeper to accommodate big barges. So it doesn't look anything like it looks like when Lewis and Clark came through. And then, of course, we have the wildlife that was present back then, also represented by the mounts. We had elk, river otters, bison. They wrote in their journals in Kansas City, it was the first place they saw bison. So you kind of see it back out on the plains right there. They knew of bison, they didn't discover buffalo. but they had not seen one until they got to Kansas City. And it's also the first place where they started to experience tallgrass prairie.
Is that passenger pigeons?
Those are Carolina parakeets,
Okay.
which, like passenger pigeons, are now extinct. So they roost in large sycamore trees, in river bottoms, so a combination. Their habitat was destroyed. There's very little of the original Missouri River bottoms left anymore. And also they were harvested for their feathers. And they're kind of, I don't say they're dumb, but they weren't used. So think about when their habitat was destroyed, their food source was destroyed. Parrots are pretty much omnivores, they eat everything, including apples, peaches, nuts, fruits, corn. Everything that farmers were growing was fair game, so they were considered a nuisance or a pest, and they were really, for some reason, they were really easy to shoot. They would just congregate in large flocks, like on a in a cornfield, and the farmers would just blast them as fast as they could pull the trigger. Because they wouldn't really, it was like they didn't care, they didn't move, it was weird. Anyway, they're gone. The last one died in like 1910. Elk, we had elk here. Elk has since been restored in Missouri. That's the Kansas City, we call it the Kansas City cougar. It was a mountain lion that was hit by a car. It's been about 10 years. It was at 45th and Park. So, if you want to see it, you can. We got a full 250-seat auditorium here. And as UMKC has lots of programs here, you guys should. Now, I understand that you're retired professors, is that right? The retired professors club?
That's one way to put it.
So you go on, put together outings, different outings? If you have meetings or some kind of event, we have a lot of, as a matter of fact, the UMKC teacher or something, they were just here Monday, using some of the facilities. They use the auditorium and the conference. We'll just kind of take a quick walk through here. Those are the administrative offices. That's called the teacher resource room. We spend a lot of time working with teachers on promoting conservation for their curriculum. There's lots of resources there. So we have education consultants that hold workshops and meet with teachers to provide them with materials that they can take conservation to their classroom. So it has some different themes. Let's go this way. I'll show you some of the classrooms.
The tadpoles are getting really big. There's some crayfish. Did he already show you those yet? Little crayfish in
Let
there.
me introduce you to Alex.
Hello.
She's our native landscape specialist, and I presume you'll be taking this out for the outside.
Perfect day for
Yeah, well, we'll get through all the boring indoor stuff. We'll turn you guys loose. This is, I know that in your email, Paul, you were interested in some of the programs that we do. Mostly we do school programs, and these are the 6 workshops. The original intent was that each of them had a theme. Nature's garden and greenhouse was growing plants, and Nature's aquarium obviously dealt with aquatics. The workshop I kind of led was nature and art. We have a nature and woodworking workshop, and another one we call exploring the outdoors. We've kind of gotten away from those. They're all kind of multi-use now. But these are the workshops where the programs happen. when the kids come. During the summer, when we don't have kids, we do traditional nature center stuff like camps. We had a 1 week day camp for kids 9 through 12. We had a big event out at our James A. Reed area with the Boys and Girls Club of America. What are some summer programs that you've been doing?
Oh, we've done some adult programs here, some
Good
youth
adventure.
programs,
Walking?
mothing, yes, look at the moths.
I also tell you about her, they do a monthly podcast.
Yeah, it's a web
They
series.
do.
Yeah.
She'll tell you about that
Yeah,
when you go outside.
yeah. well,
This is kind of one of our hallmark programs that we've been doing for almost 12, 15 years now. It's called, anybody familiar with Urban Rangers? It's a youth group. Basically, they're urban or city kids that go, a lot of them go to right across the street to the Seattle High School, Lincoln, mostly the schools, high schools around here. And it's a summer program where they learn skills on how to prepare for college. They do community work like neighborhood cleanups, painting, trail maintenance. They've helped us do some things here at the Discovery Center. And kind of the big finale of their summer program, we take them on a 3-day canoe trip, float trip on the Current River. So talk about Lewis and Clark expedition. It's kind of what it seems like. So I kind of lead it. I got 8 staff people that work with me. We provide all the equipment, the boats, the life jackets, the tents, camping equipment. They show up with their bucket. It's got their toothbrush and their extra underwear and clothes in it. And it's quite an experience. You can imagine for kids that not only have never been camping, but pretty much have never been out of the city before. So it's a lot of work. It's a lot of fun, but it's really rewarding. So that's this year's class. You went in July. Has anybody been to the Ozark National Scenic Riverways?
Yep.
That would be the Current River in southeast Missouri, and the Jack's Fork. Yeah. So
Yep.
actually, most people are surprised that we have a national park in Missouri in the Ozarks. It's not called a national park; it's called the National Scenic Riverway, but it is managed by the National Park Service. So it's a great place to go experience what a wild river looks like. This next to us was called the Green Machine. It is now, talk about extinct. It is also extinct. It was a great idea that never worked. The technology on it probably could work today, but basically it was designed to reuse our wastewater. All the water, the gray water that was from the bathrooms and from the sinks, to purify it naturally and then reintroduce it into what we call the mini marsh, and then that would feed our outdoor creek that goes into our pond. Just never worked right. It was way too expensive to get fixed. We didn't think it was a wise use of taxpayer money. So anyway, now it's just a big plant pot. This is a half-scale model of the keelboat. It's been here since it originally opened. We have we have a greenhouse. We grow plants for events. We give away native plants and trees every spring. And then this fall, we have a big event called Monarch Mania, where we're promoting monarchs in their habitat. And we're going to give away milkweeds and I think coneflowers. Alex can tell you more about that.
Milkweeds, coneflowers, blazing star,
Alex has done a great job growing your plants in there. So if you're in the neighborhood, visit.
It's on September 10th. Is that right? It's 10th, let's see, I'm looking it up here. Yeah, September 10th, the second Saturday of September. Yeah. September is the best time. We really love planting in the fall because it's less stressful for the plants. Sometimes we walk into some nice green in the fall. So we always encourage people. We get more people coming in the spring for plants because gardening, some people find they want to get out there and plant, but fall is just as good of a time to plant, especially native perennial plants, which is what we give away. So y'all should come. It's fun. One of my favorite days.
Let's head down the hallway here. And I'll tell you a little bit about the classrooms and then I'll take you outside. One big attraction, especially for kids, we're not a zoo. We don't have live animals per se. We do have some reptiles and amphibians. We have a pretty good collection of turtles. So these are red-eared slider. This is a musk turtle. This is probably let's take a peek. We're not going to go in all classrooms. Let me give you a peek here at this one. Kind of interesting. So do we have any biology or science teachers?
Oh. Biologists, yes. Science teachers, no. Not middle school.
So this
high school.
room's theme is mostly aquatics, watersheds. This is the watershed model table. It's not really set up. I'm just trying to give you an idea what it looks like here. But this is to simulate how rivers work and how rivers are formed. I don't know if I can get this fired up earlier. Yeah, that's not really much. But anyway, we've got all kinds of accessories that we basically illustrates how rivers work. For example, we turn the rain down here. So you can see the erosion happening on that bank right there. See how it's starting to cave in. So easy fix for that. Plant some trees. Add some trees along there. So this is just a real simple demonstration of what trees do in a watershed and why it's not a good idea to remove all the trees. So it'll eventually get there, but we definitely slowed it down. So there's a whole lesson plan that goes with this. Anyway, that kind of gives you an idea. This is the Brush Creek watershed model. I'm not going to get this out. I don't think this has been turned on since pre-COVID, so I'm not even sure it works. But basically, this is a model of Brush Creek that goes right through our neighborhood. This is what it looked like historically original, and this is what it looked like after being built up. And we can do experiments to simulate what erosion does in a city, how fast the water flows, the difference between water running off of natural landscapes versus built landscapes. Over here we got a macro invertebrate sorting table. A lot of this has not been, we got some, let's see what we got. Macro invertebrates are mostly insect larvae. Oh, there's crawdad. See what we got going on in here, if anything. Oh, there's a, that's the larva of a, probably either a caddisfly or there we go. So these are all indicators of a healthy stream system. Oh, there's a lot of, there's some, I'm surprised there's actually a lot going on in there. Some crawdads. So this is a part of our aquatics program that we do. All right, let's sit up this way. Okay. You gonna take over for it?
What is that feature?
Axolotl.
It's a what?
Axolotl. It's a salamander type. It's actually an amphibious, not a reptile.
It's a what?
It's an amphibian, not a reptile.
I got a milk snake in here. He's hiding under that rock. He's a biter though. I'm not get this. So yeah, we do a lot of live animal programs. Imagine when kids show up, that's kind of the highlight. Get the snake out, everybody gets stuck. Yeah, everybody gets to touch it. We got toads, salamanders. So this is called Exploring the Outdoors, and this is where we do a lot of the live animals. All right, I'm going to show you one more classroom, then we're going to head outside. You ready? That's the common staff material. So this is nature's. We have the art teachers. They always take this. So, unfortunately, we have no sun today. So I always knew that was a possibility. So I've been messing around with this exposure lamp. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to pull it off or not. But we do a lot of printmaking with the kids. Trying to see where there's a fish print shirt right there. Oh, here we go. Show you some. Do a lot of nature printing. So you can print with leaves. That's a walnut, actual real leaves. That's real leaf. We've done real fish, but it's less messy to use the molded fish. Same thing with butterflies. It's kind of hard to get the ink off their wings. But that's just some example of some stuff that we do with the kids. They make habitats. Do but yeah, those are pretty cool. So we just we collect found items in the landscape, and then you contact print them to this specially treated fabric. Same thing they make blueprints from. Some bromide, something I'm not sure. They might expose it to the sun, and then rinse it out in water. And that leaves some print behind. Actually, it's one of the earliest forms of photography. So that's kind of cool. So, I mean, it's not something you invented, it's just something we use a lot of. So, I do some nature photography once in a while. We do junk art, recycled art. One thing we've been kind of big into, so you may know how to make cordage, which is making rope from plants, from native plants. So this is dog bane that we harvested out in the backyard. And then you got to break it down and separate the fiber. And then it's just a 2-ply weave that we do. But this would have been used for a Native American bowstring. Yeah, for a bow and arrows. So it's really. So there's lots of different plants that you can use. That's rattlesnake master. Alex will probably show that too when you go outside. Trash bags work good. Old t-shirts. Knowing how to make rope is actually pretty, like in a survival situation, it's actually really easy. That's one of the classes that we teach. We do some primitive skills like fire making, flint and steel. Addle is a primitive early form of bow hunting with a spear or a dart. So a lot of cool stuff like that. All right, I'm going to turn you over.
Thank you.
Have any of y'all been here before? Oh, really? Yay! Can you tell me about your group? I missed the beginning. And Melissa. Oh, this is Melissa, by the way. Did you meet her already? She's following. She's a follower today. Could you tell me about your group?
So we're retired faculty.
From UMKC?
From UMKC.
Oh, okay, awesome. Well,
To
welcome.
put it very simple.
Okay. Got it. So new people here, welcome to the Discovery Center, the outside portion, my favorite portion. So 2 of us maintain the landscape here, the garden beds that you see here. And we have 9 acres that we lease from the Gorman Foundation. We have a pond, we have this looping trail here. I'm barely going to touch any of it today with you here, so I encourage you all to come back. Come back every week. There's something new blooming out here. So we specialize in Missouri native plants, and I'm sure y'all know this already, but the reason that native plants are important is because our flora and fauna have evolved together for thousands of years, and so our native plants feed our native insects, which feed our native birds, which go, just goes all the way to the top. So it's all very important. And we try to encourage people to incorporate native plants in their yard, whether it's for something like bird watching, which we've got a lot going on here today. I don't know if y'all noticed. There's been, I don't know what it is, but aren't you having birders in the group? There's been some birders out here. Have you seen them too, Melissa? You'll see people out with big giant camera lenses, and they've been here for the past couple weeks. And so somebody must have spotted something rare, and they're all here to try and get a picture of it. And I don't know where they're going. I haven't run into one of them to ask it. But I keep seeing them walking around in the courtyard there. So you see, we got a lot of action there. I'm going to end there because one of my favorite flowers is blooming right now. But we're going to go on a quick walk around the loop and see a couple of things. So do any of you have native flavor for any of you gardeners. Yeah! Any of you have any native plants that you know of in your gardens?
Yes,
Apparently
they're
there's
called
stuff growing
weeds.
that I didn't plant.
Yes, I can eat that. Great. That's great. Perfect.
Oh, I don't think I've ever been, I was here for an event, so we were only inside. It was evening.
I've never been in this. I know what it was when it was wilderness and parking lot.
Yeah.
Well, you'll find this was a really nice day, but you know what the weather's been like recently. We really needed this rain very badly, and all the plants have, I'm not going to say suffered, but they haven't, really been thriving in the last few weeks. But that's the beauty of native plants. They can handle long periods of drought, really freezing, and they don't necessarily die like some of our non-natives would, but they will, go dormant or go to seed a little bit faster. This is the echinacea right here. This is the purple cone flower. And just to look at this one, after everything's a little floppy today, you'll have to excuse me. After the rains, things tend to lay down for a little bit. So this plant will go. I really love this one because it looks like, let me see if I can show you. Once it goes to seed and gets kind of dry from this heat that we've had, it starts to look like it was already burned, which I love because traditionally there was a burn schedule for all of our native prairies, our native woodlands. Indigenous people were managing these wild areas long before colonization happened, so they would be on a burn schedule, a regular burn schedule, and we don't get to have that here, which is unfortunate, but it's like nice to kind of remember what that would look like if we got to have fire at this area.
You can change it.
Yeah, let's do it. So I have a really quick funny story that we had these. Okay, so I live right there in that house there, and my girlfriend lives just a couple houses down, and we were here one night and we saw water everywhere on these plants, and it hadn't rained. We were over in this section of the prairie. We saw all this water, and we were like, wait, it's burned. Why would they? We've been trying to burn things here for years, and we messed it up real bad one time, real bad. And as you can imagine, it takes a lot more effort to burn an urban area than it does a rural area, because we have to flyer all the neighborhoods around. You have to pick the exact perfect day. There's all this stuff that goes into a prescribed fire. You have to have the police, fire trucks, all of it to burn something. Even we had tried to burn this whole prairie section at one point, and that only happened one time, I'll say. But these two little girls were playing with matches, and they lit the prairie on fire back there. And they had called the firemen. They had put it out before we even noticed. It had to have happened between 5 o'clock and like 6:30, and an hour and a half was when that would have happened. And the ironic thing is that we wish they would have finished the job. The firemen put the fire out, but really that patch needed to burn and has needed to burn for a really, really long time. So that was a pretty silly story. Okay, so this is one of our. We're gonna go really quick because y'all have to be out of here at 2. Is that right?
Not.
Is that a hard out? Okay.
No.
It's not a hard.
It's not hard.
Okay. Well, I'll just say, we have the trail that goes around in the woods up there. There's not much blooming in the woods right now, but out in the prairie is where you want to be. And this bed right here, actually, we can go on down this way. This bed here is one of our newest beds. It's called Primrose Prairie, and yeah, you just saw it right there. That is the Missouri Evening Primrose, that yellow flower right there. And it looks so beautiful with the raindrops on it. It's also another Ozark sundrop is another common name for that flower. And that is a really special species that supports a lot of pollinators. So it feeds a lot of caterpillars, which, as we know, caterpillars are baby bird food. And a lot of moths will host on that plant. So this bed was designed 2 years ago. We planted it last year. And so it's in its infancy. It's still very young. This is its second year of flowering for a lot of these plants. Oh my gosh! Okay, special. This is one of the most special plants of the tall grass prairie, and we have it right here. This is blue sage. Has anyone ever seen this plant?
Yeah.
If you're driving in Kansas right now,
Yeah.
you're gonna see this blooming, especially after this rain we had today. I think the timing should be perfect. That maybe in a few days you could go out and drive in the ditches of Kansas and the prairies of Kansas. You'll see this blooming. So this is a really important flower for lots of pollinators, but it has a special story because we only have one remnant prairie left in Jackson County, and that is Jerry Smith Prairie down south. Have any of y'all ever been there before? So it's our only remnant prairie, and a remnant prairie is a prairie that's never been tilled or cultivated for agriculture. And so on that prairie we have blue sage, so it's native, so it's been there the whole time. And there is this one kind of bee called the blue sage bee, and it lives in its entire life relies on this one plant. So this one bee feeds and hosts on this one plant. And that is how, like, tiny the relationships for some of these insects and plants can be. And so that bee has been found just on the most pristine of remnant prairies, and they found it at Jerry Smith. That's how it checks out. So anyway, we always look for the bees on here, and we're like, maybe the blue sage bee will come and visit us, but it's very unlikely that it would make the jump all the way from Jerry Smith to up here. But it's fun to see. You saw there was a bumblebee on it just now. So that's really exciting. Yeah, and we have the liatris is kind of done for now, but that's another, this purple one here that's kind of a spike flower.
Yeah.
We've got the Eastern blazing star. That's another liatris. That's about to open. And that one, so the goal in this bed is to have something, one of the goals is to have something blooming at all times. And this liatris combination does a successional bloom where it's the prairie blazing star first, I think. Yeah, prairie blazing star, and then the Eastern blazing star there, and then right behind there is the dotted blazing star. You can see that spike. That's not quite bloomed out yet. So they're all taking turns having some time here. It's a great place to come to find pollinators for sure. The Eastern blazing star is just a magnet for butterflies. So when we have Monarch Mania, we will, for a few weeks leading up to it, we'll be capturing monarchs. Actually, here, I'll show you right here. We'll be capturing monarch caterpillars, and I bet if I took just a few minutes, and maybe someone will beat me to it. This is butterfly milkweed, Asclepias tuberosa, which some of you might have this one. This is the short orange one. Unfortunately, this one's under attack by aphids, but that's okay, because aphids feed other things. But they make the plant look kind of ugly. But this one has gone through drought. You see it lost a piece there. But then look, it's gonna bloom again because we got this little bit of rain. So this one's really hardy. We always recommend this one to people in Kansas City, especially because it can handle hot heat, drought, sun, all of it. It really enjoys it. But there will be monarch caterpillars. I don't see any right now. I know they're on there, but they're hiding something. So we'll bring those inside, and we will.
The ones with the stripe,
Yeah.
black stripe.
Yeah, stripes,
Yeah.
black, white, and yellow.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they will be, we'll be raising them in the lobby, and we'll be tagging them too. So we, through Monarch Watch, which is out of KU, we tag our butterflies, and it's like a little sticker. Have you ever seen these little? It's a little sticker. It's got a number attached to it. So if you find one, you put it into the Monarch Watch website, and it tracks. It'll tell you where that monarch came from, where it went migration wise. I think the only one we've had picked up was it in Loose Park, and that's not nothing. It made it up pretty far. There's a lovely native plant garden over at Loose Park too, so they found one of our tagged butterflies over there. It's very exciting. But so we will be live tagging butterflies and releasing them during that time.
How do you actually tag them?
So it's really fun. I was so nervous the first time I did it. It's like a tiny little sticker, and you put it on their forewing, on their hind wing. So it just goes like right on their, I don't know, if this is the wing, there's the head. It goes right on their back bottom wing. Yeah. And they're made to they're made really light, so they're not supposed to really mess with their flight patterns very much. And if you see monarchs during the end of migration, some of them just have barely any wings left. They can really fly with a little damage on their wings or whatever. So you feel pretty good about where they've been able to track other butterflies where they do big ones. We probably release and tag maybe I would say probably 100 to 200 monarchs every year but places that do really big, huge tracking, they'll do thousands and thousands of monarchs. So we really draw a lot here, obviously, because we've got their host plants, we've got their food. Not having the host plants really important, but they're not feeding off of the milkweed. Their caterpillars are feeding off the milkweed, but the adults need to feed on nectaring plants, and they are coming through. So the monarch we just use as a poster child because it's very charismatic, it's beautiful, big, everybody loves monarchs. But they migrate, and a lot of our native pollinators do not migrate. So it's important to keep those other native pollinators in mind too. And so the monarchs come through in the spring and the fall, so they really need a lot of food at those two times. But we like to have something blooming all year for all the pollinators that need food at all times. But that's the reason you see such mega blooms in the fall, because a lot of migrating birds, butterflies, everything that migrates at that time needs a food source. That's why all these plants have evolved to line up their nectaring and their pollen production right when all those pollinators are coming through. It's their best chance to make baby plants. So it all works out. And then you've got the monarchs that come back through in the spring, and that by the time those adults, the larvae and the adults of the native insects are opening up in the winter time, that's about time they need to start their first adult feeding. So the cycles work really well to have spring and fall be the big mega blooms. But yeah, so yeah. Oh, you see right there, goldfinch. There's a American goldfinch. It could have been a butterfly. It's on top of that's the pale purple coneflower, and it's picking those seeds out. So I always tell people, if you don't have any native plants at your house, get a coneflower first, get an echinacea first, because you'll immediately get butterflies visiting the flowers and then goldfinches visiting those seeds. I had a guy who came for a walk here one time, and he was like, what are these yellow birds? I've been here for my whole life, I've never seen these yellow birds. And I was like, you gotta have food for them. They cannot eat your sterile turf grass there's nothing there. There's no food. There's nothing there. You have to have something for them to eat, for them to visit. All it takes is planting one little echinacea, and you'll get a whole flock of bees. Aren't they cute? Yeah, that's the male of the goldfinch, and they're in breeding colors right now, so they're extra bright colored. The females are a little bit duller in color. One of the nice birds you have. They're primarily seed eaters, so that's why you'll get your finches and your smaller birds that are mostly seed eaters when you've got a native plant garden. It just adds to the biodiversity. Okay, I've blabbered on now, and we're nearing 2 o'clock, so I'm gonna take you to my favorite flower that's blooming right now. How about that? And if you have any questions or anything while we're walking, let me know. Oh, I gotta stop at one more. I can't not.
Oh, that's pretty.
Okay. Ignore the trash can. But if you want, you can come on over here, because you're gonna need to touch these flowers when I tell you what they will do. This is a flower with a trick. Have you ever showed you this one, Melissa? Okay. So this flower is called obedience plant.
Obedience.
And for the first couple of years that I worked here, I thought, well, maybe it's called that just because it stays where you planted it, but no, that's not it. Then I learned the real reason. So, imagine you're a bee, okay? And you're flying, and you're trying to get into this flower right here to get some nectar, okay? But the wind is often a factor out in the prairies, in the wet prairies where this plant thrives. And so what this plant has done, it has evolved to move with the wind, to shape itself depending on the wind. So as you can see, most of these are all facing this way, right? Mm-hmm. Well, if the wind came along and blew these flowers, we could go like this. Look at that. And they stay like that. So you could blow them all. That bug wasn't very happy about me doing that. So you could blow them all this way, right? Yeah. So the advantage there. Wait, what kind of teachers were you?
All kinds.
All kinds? Okay, so we have any wind scientists in here. These two, I need a better way to describe this because people are always confused. But I think I'm gonna try it this way, okay? If you guys have any tips, let me know. Okay, so if you're a bee, think about if the wind's blowing all of them. Well, let me try this. If they're all going this way, right? The wind is coming from behind, right? So if you're a bee, it's much easier to fly into the headwind than it is to try and fly into the crosswind. Right. Because if you fly into the crosswind, if the flower was always like this, it's gonna push you off the flower, right? So that's the mechanism there. Isn't that genius? So it's trying to give itself a better chance of the bee getting in there by facing away from the headwinds. There's got to be a better way to say that. Y'all get what I'm saying, right? Okay. It's bees. That's awesome. And you can tell by the shape of the flower too that it's going to have some pollinator that's a little bit bigger, something that has to get its whole body into the flower there. So not something small.
So this would be a great plant if you want to know which way the wind's blowing.
Yes, exactly. if you can't figure out any other way, check your obedience plan. I told him about the bees, you know, with the wind and everything. That thing that I keep trying to explain. Gotta be any easier. What's going on?
I got it. So I was just gonna say, thank you for I'll see you again.
Yeah, I got one more flower to show you.
Tree fell down.
Blooming again. That's cute. One of the nastiest smelling flowers there is. Do you see? Do you try? You can smell it?
Almost like trying to make a canoe.
Yeah.
Burn it out.
See a few things that are growing voluntarily in my yard.
I totally understand. What do you think? One more flower?
Oh yeah.
Yeah! Okay, great.
Let's do another flower.
This flower is really special. And I have to show everyone while it's blooming because it's very rare. I blame raccoons for a lot of bad stuff.
Yeah, they're destructive.
Oh, okay, well, it's not blooming anymore. Well, let me see. No, wait, this one is. Yeah, we got one.
Oh, ooh, wow.
Looks kind of sad.
Interesting.
Okay. This is spider lily. Yeah, that one. And okay, so there's two great flowers in here. This is the one I was gonna show you, which is spider lily, but it looks really sad now because it's all melted. But that one just finished blooming. It was right there too, and that one is really hard to get to bloom. And so I have to show everybody. But this one is still blooming, so let's talk about that one instead. That one is rose mallow. And that is a great plant for people who want to replace their rose sharon, because this is the same family, the hibiscus family, right? Yeah. Looks like hibiscus, right? It is, it totally is. And so it does the same, it functions the same way, except you can keep it in an even wetter spot. So it's technically, this is a rain garden, technically, and so it can handle, in the wild it grows on the edges of creeks and lakes and ponds, but here it can do a little bit drier too. It shows up in the prairie by itself also. So that is the plant that you would want to have for this in-between bloom time, like between fall and summer. And it also feeds a lot of hummingbirds. So we get tons, as you can imagine, we get tons of hummingbirds. Oh, sorry, because Rose of Sharon's not native. Yeah, Rose of Sharon is not native, and it's not technically invasive.
Oh, it
yet.
lives in my yard.
Yes, but yes, right? It's not. I'll say it's not officially on a list of invasive plants yet. But the way I've seen it, behaving, it's really aggressive, obviously, and so we don't want it spreading into. So I say, as an alternative, a shrub that is much more well behaved and native. So you're getting more, and the reason it's important to have native flowers for native plants, like I said, or for native animals, like I said, is because they've evolved together for thousands of years. The Rose of Sharon might be feeding the hummingbirds. You know, it might be giving them a little bit. It does, yes. I mean, they eat from it, but it may not be the same amount of nutrition. That's just like with what I think of when we talk about bush honeysuckle, because bush honeysuckle is one of the worst non-native invasives that we have here. And people say, like, well, the flowers are pretty, the birds eat the berries, and that is the problem, is that the birds eat the berries. They're eating those berries instead of the actual nutritious berries that they need, because those berries are like having a Diet Coke. It's like a lot of sugar, not the right amount of fats and proteins that they need. So they're eating these berries instead of the nutritious berries that they actually need, and that berry is there because it's crowded out everything else and all of their other food sources. So that's why we fight against non-native invasives. And during Monarch Mania, I'm doing a honeysuckle buyback program. So if you cut down a honeysuckle in your yard or wherever, you come in, you can get something nice. Like we'll have rose mallow there, we'll have indigo bush and button bush, which is another one of my favorites, and other native shrubs to trade in. So think about it. If you think about getting rid of a honeysuckle in your yard. Oh, you're ready. You are ready. Well, thank you all for coming today. And we can let you back in the building here if you want. This building is already to be locked, but that back door is open too if you wanted to keep walking or whatever. But yeah, did you have any other questions or anything before we? Oh, I meant to talk about my our Deep Roots series, which is on every third Thursday of the month through deeprootskc.com. And all of our old episodes are on YouTube, the Deep Roots KC YouTube page. So it's kind of like this. We go on a little walk, we talk about some things that are blooming, and then there's a hummingbird right there. And then some other issues. They like to sit in the service. Okay, of course, it just sat. There it goes. Bye. They're really great at giving a lasting show. But yeah, it's kind of like this, and we talk about something that's going on in native plant gardening or answer questions or whatever. So join us for that too.